Ah, Pixar. Out of all the big major animation studios, it has made more of my favorite animated movies compared to everyone else. Sure, DreamWorks, Disney, Sony, hell, even Illumination have made great films as well. But in my opinion, Pixar movies tend to be more consistent, and they never really seem to miss. Mostly. My point is that Pixar films have rarely disappointed me. Even some of Pixar's worst films, while they may not be cinematic masterpieces, have at least some redeeming qualities, where they excel in at least one thing that allows me to not dislike the film. However, since I have been impressed by Pixar so much in the past, that also means I tend to have very high expectations for their films, higher than most animation studios to be honest. So when Pixar announces a new film, I always tend to think, okay, I'll definitely watch it, but man, I'm really scared they will screw it up. This is especially the case for Pixar sequels, which generally tend to leave many animation fans underwhelmed or disappointed at times. That leads me to the topic of this video, the film that Pixar is about to release later this year, Inside Out 2. Now, if you ask me which one of Pixar's IPs warranted a sequel the most, Inside Out wasn't exactly my first pick actually, and it's for one key reason. The original Inside Out is just so good of a film that I cannot see how they can top it. I mean, with the original film, it's pretty hard for me to find anything wrong with it. I guess the only slight criticism I have with it is that time does not really seem to flow consistently in the movie. But that is pretty much it. And it's kind of a nitpicky complaint because it doesn't hinder my enjoyment of the film. Everything about it, from the characters, to the plot, to the animation, to the comedy, and everything else in between is just brilliantly executed. Frankly, the original Inside Out is one of those movies that I want to make a dedicated video in another time because it's one of those life-changing movies for me, as it was the first movie to ever show me the beauty of animation as a medium for storytelling. So with this in mind, you can see why I'm very concerned that Pixar will somehow screw up the sequel. Now, contrary to the general sentiment of others, I actually do like most of Pixar's sequels. I wouldn't say they are the best films from the studio, but in a vacuum, and even compared to the best from other studios, they do hold up very well and act as very good continuations to the original films. I guess the main reason why many people don't like them is because they almost never match or exceed the quality of the original, and they degrade the messaging of their predecessors. The only exceptions were the Toy Story sequels, which managed to surpass the original film at least twice in all metrics. So given Pixar's track record with their sequels, it's easy to have concerns for Inside Out 2 not being as good as the original. Personally, one of my biggest concerns is that it will be kind of a repeat of the first film. Odds are, the movie will start off with establishing the way how Riley's life is going through the status quo, then a sudden life-changing event happens. This in turn would cause some of the important emotions to be moved away from headquarters, leaving only a handful of emotions to control Riley and cause her to make erratic decisions. Meanwhile, the emotions that were moved away have to traverse through the mind back to headquarters, during which they discover how they should share control of Riley more equally in order to handle life-changing situations better. By the time they get back to headquarters, they will execute what they learned to save Riley from making a catastrophic mistake. Now, there could be some changes to this general formula to the plot of Inside Out for the sequel, but I don't really see how we can vary much. Partly because we likely already know what will happen to Riley's emotions, given that adults in the movie don't have those 4 new emotions present in their headquarters. That leads me to my other concern for this film. What will happen to these 4 new emotions by the end of the movie? We know they can't stay in at least headquarters for the rest of Riley's life, given that no other adults that we've seen so far in the first film have them. Either Pixar will retcon them and show that they do exist in adult minds the whole time, or the most likely outcome is that these 4 emotions will be suppressed by the end of the film. However, even this outcome has its problems from a storytelling perspective. For one, adults usually don't suppress their negative emotions like that, especially anxiety. Take it from me as an adult in their early 20s, anxiety runs rampant in my mind. So for anxiety to be suppressed in adult minds in Inside Out doesn't seem logical. But the more important reason why this conclusion may not work is because it kind of contradicts the messaging of the first movie. You can have different takeaways from Inside Out, but one of the valid morals of the movie is that each emotion is important in their own way, as it allows humans to communicate with others effectively. So if the film ends with these 4 emotions being suppressed away from headquarters, that would imply that some emotions are inherently harmful and should be suppressed in all cases, which means the first film's message is actually wrong. Now, it's very likely that the writers of this film are aware of this concern, and they probably came up with a way to avoid this contradiction in messaging, but we'll just have to see. But despite my concerns for the film, overall, and after seeing the second trailer for this movie, I am actually excited to see this film, and I have pretty high expectations for it. While Inside Out 2 is likely to follow a similar plot structure as the first film, that doesn't mean it will be a repeat of the original film. The movie could easily adapt its structure in a way that feels fresh by exploring new sectors of the mind, having Riley go through new experiences as a teenager, illustrate new character dynamics that we haven't got the chance to explore yet, and so much more. In fact, what I'm looking forward to the most is seeing the 5 original emotions explore the mind together. Initially, when the news came out that new emotions will be introduced, I got concerned at first that this will just result in the new characters crowding out the old ones, thus resulting in less screen time for them. While this could still happen admittedly, with the amount of screen time that the 5 emotions will get, it's great to know that they will actually spend time interacting with each other rather than being separated, which was the case in the first film. As for the 4 new emotions, I'm also excited to see how their presence will impact Riley's mind and how she interacts with the outside world. On top of that, given what we have seen from the second trailer, it actually looks like there will be an actual antagonist for this movie, with anxiety being the main one. With the first film, there were surprisingly no antagonists at all that needed to be defeated. I guess the antagonist of that film was Riley's change in lifestyle itself, but it's not personified like what you would expect. But with the sequel, it does seem like as if anxiety and the other emotions will forcefully seize control from joy and the OG emotions, which will likely result in Riley making catastrophic decisions. Again, rather expected from a 13-year-old girl, which, when you think about it, is not too different from other female protagonists that we've seen from Disney cartoons. Now, some might say that having these 4 emotions be the antagonists are red flags for concern. I don't expect them to be antagonists for the whole film. Maybe after a while of controlling Riley's mind and seeing poor results, anxiety and everyone else will realize how necessary the OG emotions are, and they will come to the same conclusion that Joy had in the first film, thus reinforcing the original movie's message and allowing other emotions to be expressed when needed. Overall, when it comes to Inside Out 2, it's a movie that I would say I'm optimistic that it will be good, but I don't expect it to be as good as the original film. Still, not being as good as the original should not deter me from watching the film. I assume Pixar knows that people have high expectations for this movie, unlike with their other franchises. So it seems fair to say that Pixar is doing everything they can to make sure Inside Out 2 is as best of a film that they can make, given the time and resources they have. So with this in mind, I feel confident that I will like this movie, but only time will tell. But what do I know? My thoughts are not facts in the end. If you guys watched Inside Out, what do you think? And what are your expectations for this sequel? Let me know all of your thoughts down in the comments below, and please give this video a like, and subscribe for more content like this. With all that said, thank you all for watching this video. I hope you all have a great day. See you in the next one.